start with this passage, and there are a variety of opinions as to just what it means. At first glance, it appears to be an affirmation of someone who's something of a rogue. I quote, "The rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd." First point to make is that this is a parable. It is not a discourse on how we should manage money, though that does come into it. Interesting, how we deal with money does say a lot about us. Are we generous or perhaps a little bit stingy? Are we frugal, or we inclined to spend our money extravagantly? Are we honest, or perhaps a little untrustworthy? There's a story of a modern biographer who was adding yet another chapter to the many biographies written about the Duke of Wellington. And he said, "I have an advantage over all the previous biographers because I discovered a journal of accounts that belonged to the Duke. And of course, it showed just how he spent his money. And from that, I actually was able to discern far more about what was important to the Duke than from his speeches and his writings." So this passage has a comment to make about our priorities. Do we focus on the material things of life, or do we invest time and energy into our spiritual life? How many of us can actually put our hands up and hands on our heart and say, we spend as much time in prayer and reading the Bible as we do following sport, gardening and other pursuits, reading a good book? Not that the Bible isn't a good book, but you know what I'm trying to say. The reality is most of us, including me, say, oh gosh, I should spend more time in prayer reading the Bible because, there are so many other distractions in life. And but what I do need to say is, if we're able to make that a priority, and I mean a priority, then our lives would invariably be much the richer in every sense of the word. I want to focus for a moment on verse 9, which reads, "Here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and to make friends. Then when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home." It has a distinct echo of what Jesus says in Matthew 6 verses 19 to 21. "Don't store up treasures here on earth. Store your treasures in heaven. Wherever your treasure is, there your heart and thoughts will also be." There's a story of a wealthy lord who lived in the Scottish Highlands, and he was more than richly endowed with the world's goods. But there was something lacking in his life. He didn't have a faith. He lived on his own. He was not known for giving generously to charity. At the end of the long driveway to his estate, there lived in a small cottage his herdsman. His name was John. John was very different to the Lord, apart from the fact he owned a fraction of what the Lord owned. But he was a humble man. He went to church every Sunday, and he gave generously from what he could give. One morning he knocked on the door of the Lord's mansion, looking quite worried. The Lord said to him, "John, is everything all right?" He said, "Well, sir, I just I've got to share something with you. Last night, I had a dream. In my dream, the wealthiest man in the valley died. I had to share that with you. Don't worry, said the Lord. I don't believe in dreams. Get on with your work, mate. I'm absolutely fine. But when John had gone, the Lord sort of thought a bit about what he had told him, and he actually then got in his car, drove down to the village, went to the doctors and had a checkup. The doctor said, "Sir, you are in the best of health. You are going to live for a long, long time." Thank you. I was pretty sure I was okay. So he went home. That night, after enjoying a sumptuous meal and about to go to bed, there was a knock on his door again. And this time it was John's daughter. She was grief-stricken. She said, "My mum has asked me to come and tell you that Dad has just died." And the Lord froze as he realised just who was the richest man in the valley. Because you see, my friends, riches are not measured just in terms of material things, as we know. So, don't store up your treasures here on earth. Store your treasures in heaven. Now, you've heard me say this before, quite recently. What brings us happiness and true fulfillment is not what we do for ourselves, it's what we do for others. Tony Robbins, American author and philanthropist, said, "Only those who have learned the power of sincere and selfless giving experience life's deepest joy, true fulfillment." I want to briefly allude to how this relates directly to our church, and those of you who had a chance to read the newsletter which I sent out yesterday will have taken note of this. But financially, in terms of our what we call our church operating funds, we're in the red, and we're struggling a little. Running a church actually costs a lot of money. And I'm actually not talking about this whole new complex. That takes a lot of money, but that's another whole issue. I'm actually at the moment just talking about our church as a church. My friends, we have a duty to give to the needy. And right now, our church is needy. So it's a community. Our church is a community. And our church is here to support our community, as you know. And so it needs our support. And besides, if you want to keep in God's good books, you give. And I quote from 2 Corinthians 9, "For God loves a person who gives cheerfully." Read about it in the newsletter. Finally, referring back to our gospel passage, there's a very clear message here about honesty. And I quote, "If you are faithful in little things, you'll be faithful in large things. But if you are dishonest in little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities." I think honesty's got to be one of the most determining and important directives in terms of evaluating and expressing character. The proverb which says the first step towards greatness is to be honest. And my friends, as we so often say, life is about relationships. And if you don't have trust and honesty in a relationship, that relationship will falter and fail. So what lies at the heart of trust? Purely and simply honesty. That lies at the heart of trust. It has to be one of the most important things we can drum into our children. If we learn honesty at a young age, it should remain with us through into adulthood. William Shakespeare said, "No legacy is so rich as honesty." So true. And the point that is made in this passage that it all begins with small things, small little lies invariably will lead to bigger lies. Dishonesty is dishonesty, no matter the scale or gravity. And I quote from our first reading, "So stop telling lies. Let us tell our neighbours the truth, for we are all parts of the same body." Finish with another little story. The local vicar saw a group of boys sitting in a circle, and there was a dog with them, dog in the middle of the circle. He said, "Boys, what are you doing?" One of the boys said, "Vicar, we're telling lies. And the person who tells the biggest lie gets the dog." The vicar said, "Shame on you. When I was your age, I never ever thought of telling a lie." The boy said, "Guys, give him the dog. He's the winner."